GLOBIS.
Thank you. So this session is about the new role of the cities. And as you know, that the COVID-19 disrupted almost every aspect of our life. People don't go to offices so often. People don't shop at offline stores so frequently. And they don't gather at the large events. So probably this is the largest one we could have as of today. We have talked about new normal, but also there is a significant force of back to normal. And we don't know what is the optimal point between those two forces. The severity of the COVID-19 infection varies significantly by country. So as of today, unfortunately, US and the UK suffered so much more with the 50 times death counts compared with Japan per population. So the situation may be quite different. Today, we will discuss what changes we are observing over the past half year in how we live, how we work, and how we play, and even our value systems. And we'll discuss what these changes mean to cities, and as a result, to urban development. So today we have four truly distinguished panelists, and let's hear from each one of them about what activities they are doing in terms of city or urban development and how the COVID-19 situation has impacted their work. Starting from Toshiko from Maine today, please give a quick comment, like maybe 2 minutes, about that question.
Okay. Our office is working remotely. Our office is based in New York City. And we've been very busy because we do institutional work, infrastructure work with our essential workers. And then also, I'm in Maine because there's a huge demand for building, and especially residential vacation homes in remote communities, which has been safe. Where I am has been zero coronavirus, which is rare. So in the two bipolar situations, we have been incredibly busy. At Harvard, we've been teaching remotely, and which is very difficult. But then we have MOOC. Online teaching has always been in place. So in a way, it's not something new for us. And the bottom line is that it's really acceleration of existing trends by a coronavirus. And being a New Yorker, where we were hit really badly, but we actually do believe in forces of urbanization is stronger than infectious disease.
So are you still doing a 100% online education at Harvard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Sage-san, please.
Yep. Hi, Seiichi. Well, we're working on Azurizomatics, like half a entertainment business, which is like doing a Tokyo Dome, like big live, like the perfumes or second action, all that. And then also like the half of our work is like the city planning. So the first one was like a gigantic impact. Like we cancel all those. And then also I was working on Dubai Expo, which is supposed to be happening like in 9 days. And then also the Tokyo Olympics, which is like the big change. I mean, it's supposed to be like a big boom, but it was postponed. So we got a lot of impact, and then we try, well, still, I mean, since we are working on like a digital, physical things together as a company, so we try to find the new paths, how we can actually drive like physically gathering people events to like something really digital. So, yeah.
Thank you. So John, please.
Hi there, Japan, through Zoom. I think it's weird. I wish I was there. But anyways, and those cool masks, I'm so jealous. Well, you know, 5 years ago when I was in Silicon Valley, I heard about remote work, all distributed work. And I actually went to work at the time, the largest all distributed tech company, Automatic, for 3 years. And I discovered I didn't like it. I discovered there are many things that you cannot do at scale. And so Like a year ago, I actually changed roles. I actually went to Publicis Group, and I was there at Publicis for 1 year. It was great. It's a global job, but when you're global and you can't fly anywhere, it doesn't really matter. So I decided that I wanted to go back into something that was much more relevant to now. And I began, this is still a secret, so you can't put it on the internet yet. You'll find out next week. In Japan, the information probably stays there. But I'm moving to a company called Everbridge that specializes in critical event management. And a critical event is any kind of crisis event. And Everbridge has a cloud-based SaaS technology to monitor, analyze any kind of critical event, earthquake, hurricane, COVID, shooter, terrorist. And it's been around since 9/11, this company. And they asked me to come on board to rethink their customer experience. And so I'm really excited to be able to be in the middle of all the crises. And so, and this is not just North America, it's all over the world. So this is stuff I just started. From next week, I'll be able to talk about this and talk about this more openly. But I've been thinking a lot about cities. And when I think about cities, this thing about cities is that cities have like changed over time. So if you think about in the year like 1000, the biggest city at the time was Cordoba in Spain. Europe was the center of the world. But then by 1500, what happened is Beijing became the center of the world, Asia. And then 1800s, it was still Beijing, and Japan was coming online as a major metropolis. And then going to 1900, things shift towards Europe. London became the center of the world, the biggest city. And then by the mid-1900s, the US began to sort of take that sort of leadership. New York City became the largest city of the world in 1950. But then what's interesting is that by the year 2000, what's changed is like everything came back to Asia, Tokyo over here, right? That's all of you over there. And also, if you look at right now, in particular in 2019, all the largest cities are in Japan, in China, in India, and this region right now that you're all in. So it's significant where you are at, because it means that any event impacts you all at once, these critical events. And so anyways, it's my kind of passion to understand how can we actually create technologies that can protect more people. And so that's why I've joined this company. Anyways, that's what I'm doing. Back to you.
Thank you. So Hiro-san, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Hiro Mori. As you know, Mori Building's main business is urban redevelopment. And our properties, almost all properties are located in Tokyo. So joining this session, the role of the cities makes me very excited. And the impact of COVID-19 at this moment, as for the hotel business, Mori Building have Grand Hyatt Tokyo and Andaz Tokyo. During the lockdown time period, occupancy is 2%. Last year, 90%, 80%. And this year, as you know, Olympic, 2020 Olympic game, Paralympic game, so we were strongly looking forward to big sales. But unfortunately, because of COVID-19, after the lockdown released, at this moment, occupancy is between 25 and 30. But it means 70% revenue going down. It's quite huge impact. On the other hand, as for the office, Mori Building's main business is leasing office. And at this moment, because of fixed term lease contract, fortunately, very few companies comes to ask us the midterm cancellation. But as you know, fixed term lease contract is averagely 3 years, 5 years. So in a few years, new trend, I think the reducing the space of the office is actualized, maybe. So we have to consider seriously about new trend. It's my big concern. Anyway, at this moment, only hotel is very bad. Please stay hotel.
Yeah, thank you. Let's discuss that specific topic in a later session. But so maybe the next question for you all is, how does COVID-19 impact how people live, work, and play, and what are the key implications for urban planning and development? So, Hiro-san.
Okay. At this moment, as for Roppongi Hills, office workers, only 30% in the office. Toramon Hills also 30%. We can count the tenants' activities. So if when you go around, walk around the office space as a management, empty. Only 30% seats are occupied. So as a management, you must ask Chief Administration Officer, when is the leasing term? Of course, they will reduce some space. I think this is a big impact. But headquarters, office unnecessary salary is too much. Office should be located in center of urban central. It's my personal comment. But work style reform is changing very, very speedy and dramatically.
Well, speaking about the supply and demand of large-scale offices, Saito-san was analyzing that there are how many large-scale
yeah, well, there was actually a report like the last fiscal years, there are actually 399 building is actually being in construction.
399?
More than 10,000 square meter. And then I think that this year is like a 250 something. So, well, my big question is I'm not really against like urbanism, but I think why we have to build that more. And then also like we have so many problem about like aging problem, or we have a lot of social problem, like less workers, population, all that. So my opinion is about like this is actually the big shift about like shifting to the circular economy based city planning, which is like or highly populated urbanism is maybe like the bomb the circle, but also for example like a big company like start moving to the countryside, which is like depend on them, but you know the like building a one circle in the countryside might be or in the suburban. So for me, I got the big question like why big city has tried to have everything like entertainment, art, or like the culture, all that, like residential or offices. And then they have all the same sections. So I think this is actually the, maybe like a great, unfortunate, but it's a great opportunity to define the scenarios. And then also like, you know, to define the role of like the each of one of the city or circles.
Define a new scenario where city center and suburban areas or rural areas have different roles.
Yeah, it could be the role, and then also like it could be a different center, like in terms of business, like you know food or energy or mobility and all that, and well because like we have a tactical area like all over the world. I mean, all over Japan. I mean, the government tried to put not the stamp, but now digital stamp, but this is like the special area where you can actually experiment the thing. But in the end, like everywhere is actually, it's an experimental based city. So I think we have to, my opinion is like we have to define the clear scenario about like, okay, you guys gonna do like entertainment business center, and then you guys gonna have like a food business center here, So they have like each one, well, different roles, and then so they can interact.
So you're more talking about specific roles for specific individual towns within Greater Tokyo, for example.
Yeah.
Yes. Hiro-san.
Yeah, my
any
question
comment?
to you. Don't you deny the urbanization?
I'm not really denying because urbanization is like one of the option. So I'm not really, because like for me, like for example, like before COVID-19, all the developers are trying to build things in the city, like really condensed and then really like the total building. But now maybe it's a time to actually think about not just in urban, in urban cities like Tokyo or Fukuoka or Nagoya, but also like the suburban area can be developed.
I like
jump
to
in here?
hear from both Toshiko and John.
Can I
about,
jump in?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So first of all, I think that all remote is a terrible paradigm because it excludes everyone who can't use a computer. And I would like to see Mori-san's hotels full because there are so many people who are unskilled in computers who make a living off of working in those hotels. Nothing is wrong with the hotels. It's just people's faith in those systems has gone down. Therefore, it's super important that we accept the fact that older people love remote because they don't have to do anything anymore. The younger people have lives to live, number one. Number two, women at work are severely impacted by remote work here in the States. It's the number one cause for loss of productivity and also more inequities between women and men because women who are stuck at the home and working and have primary childcare duties are suffering greatly. So this inequality is only going to be amplified by all remote. So we have to go back to the hotels. We have to do that. And that's why technology should be able to help us protect ourselves in different ways.
Yeah, I agree with John too. I think one of the impact of remote teaching, remote work, and also access is creating winners and losers very rapidly. In the losers are, as John says, women, and also in America, African Americans, and then the people who are in underserved communities, and they don't have internet, they don't have a space they can work. And kids too. Kids can't be in school on kitchen tables. So it's creating more inequality, which I think is something absolutely wrong. And this is a circumstance of urbanization where we can take these chances in which, in historically, crisis, and especially infectious disease crisis, provided urban experimentation for positive one. 1850s cholera epidemic really incentivized New York, Paris, and London to renew the sewer system to have more sanitary cities. So that's actually something else. And then in this context we have now, we have accelerating a trend, as I mentioned before, like remote work, but we should be using technology or the physical spaces to combine them together to make a sustainable, equitable society. It's a big chance right now. Or else, I think urbanization by itself, I think I do agree with Saito-san that it's a time to reset, regenerate, and re-energize urbanization. And I think that certain things that we had done wrong, in which we left a lot of people behind, it needs to be corrected. This is a big chance for us to do it. And I think it's really about equitable, affordable, accessible, and safer in terms of public health. And that's actually the issues we have to deal with in terms of future urbanization.
Well, we all understand that the situation is kind of causing the widened gap between the winners and the losers. And addressing the inequality issue is very important, becoming so much more important. But the question is how? Can anybody give some hints to address
yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Well, just the reason why I'm like switching jobs is I don't want to like wait for things to change. I think if we have more technologies to create more safety for more businesses and countries to operate, knowing how the situation is, whether with this COVID or earthquakes or whatever, they can actually go back to work more safely and take care of their employees and their citizens. It's because people don't have information that they're afraid. If you have more information, more control, leaders can change things.
Yeah, that's a great point. Toshiko-san, you were...
Oh, yeah. Also, it's something very simple, is to make cities all walkable or accessible by bicycle, and also walkable in terms of short distances, in 5 minutes to work, in 5 minutes to shop, 15 minutes to school. So in a way, to rethink of a cities in terms of idea of walkability. I think public transportation is there, but in terms of density and a problem, and it's just going to be added problem right now. And I think that's actually something else to make a cities walkable. But also the way we are thinking is this. It was very ironic that about 30 years ago, office space, a standard square footage is about 25 square meters. Now, a standard square footage per person is like 8 square meters. So strangely enough, we are putting people into 30% of a space they used to work. So in a way, the social distancing and everything is kind of increasing individual square footage, which means I think that Mori-san, I don't think you have to worry a lot about office spaces, but same footprint of offices will be occupied by less people, which means people will be working in shifts, so that the cities will need to function in 24-hour cycle, not to 9 to 5 anymore, maybe earlier in the morning, and which actually helps in terms of women to work in small bits, and then in between picking up kids, and then to be able to disperse the workload in terms of time, as well as just going to the office and sitting at desks. So I think this combination, remote and also physical working situation, are absolutely critical for any knowledge-based creative work, and also better human relationships and better society understanding in learning and teaching and working in any case. But I think that two things, what I said is accessibility, walkable city. The second is thinking of cities in terms of 24-hour cycles, not like static spaces, but time zones, which will alleviate congestion and also gives enormous amount of flexibility to many people who will be working and living.
Well,
and also give restaurants more longer hours to attract people, museums longer hours, and Mezawa-san, your night economy, you should talk about it. That's what you need in a city right now.
Yeah, thank you, Toshiko-san.
I want to say, yeah.
Yes.
Walkable accessibility is very important. I 100% agree with Toshiko-san's comment. So for this goal, we have to concentrate working area and living area and some entertainment area.
Yeah, mixed-use cities
complex.
with maybe smaller blocks.
That's right. Yeah.
And maybe more green on the streets.
Yeah. And people understand through the work from home, to commute the office for 1 hour is very, very time wasting.
Right.
So
yeah, it's one major cause of low productivity here in Japan. And speaking about the walkable cities, the Ministry of Land and Transportation last year started seriously studying what it means to cities in Japan. And now they have a holistic proposal, and many cities and towns are participating in that program. And talking about the nighttime economy, Toshiko-san raised, I am one of the co-leaders of a Nighttime Economy Association for Japan. And the aim is really making large Japanese cities into a 24-hour cities where people can have a diverse lifestyle and people can work and play when they like to. So they don't need to work 9 to 5 as a kind of standard norm. Some people prefer working in the afternoon or even in the evenings. And for those people actually having capacity for restaurants and entertainment in late night is also needed. And that kind of lifestyle is one critical element for a city to become competitive creative city. Yeah, because the creative class need that kind of flexibility and the choice in terms of lifestyle. So going back to the questions, next question is, let's assume that the COVID-19 situation is contained. What aspects of our life will return to the old normal and what will remain as new normal? Hiro-san.
Yeah, some will return to old normal, unfortunately, but some still...
Not necessarily unfortunate.
Because humankind, our old style people is still managing the company. So it's very interesting case. Example, as for the Aquiles, 55% still in the office. As I mentioned, upon Hills is 30%. On the other hand, Arc is 55% because the kind of tenant industries.
The management style is older in Arc.
So it's big difference between new tech companies and old style companies.
Interesting.
Still, old style companies occupy some area, Otemachi, Marunouchi, Kasumigaseki area. On the other hand, Shibuya area, very many tech companies are there. So at this moment, Shibuya area is office workers are not there. So I think so. Still, there's two powers competing each other.
Let me ask you all: do you primarily work at home or work remotely? Please raise your hand. As of today, work remotely. Do you go to your original offices on a regular basis? Yeah, 30%. Okay, so it's maybe 1 to 2. 70%. Okay. Thank you. That's a reality today. What will it be like maybe a year from now? That's the question.
Can I actually put in my opinion? I've been seeing a lot of interesting. We've been declaring our company is like a highly technology-based company, but a lot of my guys in my office, start actually touching on soils, like raising the vegetables, or
doing farming,
like even urban farming, like small, the pots and that was a really interesting actually opinion. Like we've been chatting online, and then so for me, including me, the people tried to go back to as the human being did, being with the nature, even it's not like nature, but it's like it can be urban nature. And then, so that is like the things like we realize how, what the human being, for example, a lot of people, including me, start walking around the neighbors, and then people start realizing, oh, there is a shrine here, there is a great shop or restaurant. So our resolution, the resolution of the life or resolution of the knowledge is actually the being higher. So that's a really interesting phenomena that we're going to, that's something the new thing. But in terms of a business, that's I'm not really saying like going back to the normal, but we try to keep as it is or as it was.
So kind of mixed.
Yeah, so it's a mix. And then to do that, I think one of the key is the tech. Mm-hmm. And then key is like there's the definition of a smart city, or it's like, the structure of a smart city, like how we can actually install real smart city driven by the data is installed like sooner.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about the values of the people, I found a very interesting research recently. The question was, what is the most important aspect of your life? And before COVID, many people said work. After COVID, number 1, family. Number 2, eating. Number 3, sleeping. That was the highest priority issues for us, basically. So the COVID-19 situation changed dramatically the value system of the people. I want to hear from the States. Has it impacted people's mind that way?
Oh yeah, I think completely, and I think we call it silver lining. And because of silver lining, everybody was working from home, and some people actually went to live with the parents, and then, like in my situation now, we have like my daughter's family living with. So all of a sudden, the families united, and there's a value change in terms of what's important in life. And also eating habits is related to public health. And everybody was eating well to build up immunity. So they became more literate in terms of how to eat well. And then I think that related to, like Saito-san, a lot of people want to be growing vegetables in the gardens, and they want to have a control of their eating supply chain on their own. And they learn to sleep well does help to prevent catching COVID. So everybody's sleeping longer. So and that's actually has been a great silver lining on COVID. People have acquired healthy habit, eating and sleeping habit, and also regained the relationship with the family. I don't know in Japan, because you have like husbands and fathers who you never see coming home and working, and what do you do with this kind of situation may be quite interesting.
Yeah, it's impacting a lot in Japan too. John, are you seeing a similar change in the West Coast?
I think my just general concern is that a lot of kind of like well-off-to-do tech people are discovering farming and food and dirt and whatever, and it's a wonderful life. But in reality, everyone who cannot work like this doesn't have a job. And I think of my parents who made tofu for a living, who, if their tofu store was open, it'd be closed for the last half year, and therefore they'd be making no money at all. And so I think that there's a very skewed view of how this is impacting people. Consider how, like in Brazil, some of the poorest neighborhoods, there's a rise of organized crime, because organized crime can control the area much easier when you have to stay at home. Kind of similar to what happened to Japan post-World War II. Organized crime can control when there is fear. That is why I'm thinking about Mori-san's buildings and everything. If you create more fear, people don't go to the things that work. You actually hurt the economy in the middle and the lower. And that's what drives progress. That's what I'm concerned about.
Thank you. A very important point. So let us move on to maybe the last question for the session. What will determine the attractiveness of a city in the new paradigm? And what will be the key magnet for a city center to attract people? Assuming that remote work becomes a norm and retail outlets disappear and large events become unpopular.
Yeah, this is a very, very difficult question, and it still we are pursuing. But I want to say, mankind is a creature that gathers together to collaborate and talk. We exchange thoughts and ideas, which is the basis of various ideas and innovation. And this type of activity is absolutely necessary for the development of human being. So what is the most key for the attractive city is how to gather people with safety and with attractiveness. But I have no answer at this moment about the attractiveness. But as I mentioned before this session, Tak-san is a president of CIC, Cambridge Innovation Center in Toranomon Hills Business Tower, just opened. So interior of this office is very unique and very attractive. So causing serendipity and very unique interior design. I think it's one of good example for the attractiveness, I think.
Well, thank you. Because you have said that, I'll give you a quick intro of CIC Tokyo. We just opened on October 1st. It's going to be Japan's largest city center startup campus. The space is more than 6,000 square meters, which is 65,000 square feet. So far largest than anything other. We're going to have, in the end, we're going to have more than 200 startups located in that center, surrounded by many professionals like lawyers and patent lawyers and accounting professionals who are eager to support those startups, as well as investors, selected VCs and angel investors. We're going to have a regular conferences and events like twice or three times every week by assembling specialized communities focused on energy, environment, sport entertainment, smart city, education, etc. So it's going to be a center for innovation, at least for Tokyo, by gathering like-minded, innovative people from different sectors, including bureaucrats. CIC has developed this model in Cambridge, Massachusetts, right next to MIT in Boston area. And basically they decided to enter Japan as the first market in Asia, and I'm chairing that effort. Our core value is really not renting the office. It is really creating a community where people have various serendipity opportunities by attending those events, or just walking through the corridors and meeting new people who have like-minded aspirations. Anyway, please.
Yep. So, well, as you may know already, I'm a big, my big direction is circular economy-based city planning, including urbanism, including decentralized suburban or countryside. So for me, the magnet is actually the key is the culture. So each one of the circle going to have original culture. It's a business base or either history base or something like the facility base, which is like, well, I was really excited that Kono-san this morning, like say, well, he tried to bring the business of art market in Hong Kong, try to be in Tokyo, which is really great. So the art can be like the one of the attractive things of the city. And then also we have to concern about the quality of life. So each one of the city, like the utility base is like really close, which is like the recycling or energy utility, which is like a tech base, like we can track all that. But the culture, like we have to like physically go there, we'll go somewhere and then experience things. Well, it's a depend on the situation of the society, like, you know, the pandemic or that. But what it can help the people actually physically move to like one place to another. And then also like a transportation way. So, well, again, I mean, the attractiveness is the culture.
I believe.
John, your thought, please.
I'm such a believer that hands and the craft of Japan are so tied to land and space that if you make it all go virtual, Japan's going to suffer even more as a country. So I think, we're using technologies to leverage space again safely is going to be super important before and after a vaccine is introduced. And anything that can make that happen is just my focus right now.
Thank you. Toshiko, please.
I think cities have fundamentals, which is it has location advantage, and then also it has a built environment legacy, and then property ownership. And those things won't change. And property ownership, like Mr. Mori, is going to keep investing on it. They won't abandon the cities. And so they're the basic things. And also city, by and large, has always place for strike deals, exchange ideas, shipping goods. And then all that will draw talent and cash. And that's not going to change. And I think it might be slower, but I think it's going to accelerate. And the idea now is to make it accessible and also inclusive and no one left behind. That's basically what it is. And then so that equitable, that everybody's taken care of and it's safe for everybody, not just for wealthy people. And then technology available and internet available like AI and water. That kind of a political will is necessary. So for urbanization future, it's just people, business, institutions, and political will. That's actually going to drive it. And then city already has fundamentals of being attractive. And it's just how you switch it into equitable society, I think is a challenge for everybody.
Well, thank you so much for a kind of great summary of our discussion. Let me add one more comment from me about culture, as H-san mentioned. I am playing as a DJ, music DJ, and I resumed my own party in the end of June. And since then, I keep doing that at least once every month, maybe twice a month in a DJ club or restaurant bar in a safely condition. I'm strongly realizing the value of gathering people in that kind of occasion because I invite my business partners, I invite my friends in the music and art community, and I invite my partners in the government, and they start talking to each other while I'm playing music. And many new good ideas come up because of that. So that's a kind of serendipity, or maybe manipulated or engineered serendipity, but that's a kind of serendipity a city can create, or nighttime economy can create. And I think that's one of the answers I can give to Hiro-san, to your dilemma.
Yeah, it's the city's value, that's it, yeah. And your question is?
Well,
oh, my comment?
Well, if you have, yes.
Of course, as Toshiko mentioned, I won't abandon cities. But I want to say, so far, sorry, it's only focused upon office. So far, I said to the office tenant that rent is not cost. Rent is investment for recruiting good talent. But unfortunately, the landlord like us didn't do big effort because so far the market is very good. But now we have to seriously consider about how to make our office more attractive for getting the tenant recruiting. Yeah.
Thank you. So let us take some questions from you, and I'll take maybe 2 or 3 first, and then, yes, please, Wakama-san.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm Tad Wakamas from General Motors, and of course my interest is in mobility. How do you see the change, the trend in mobility, how people use of transportation. Like in Japan, usually public transportation is the basic norm here, and that's how the city is built around. How is it going to change in the future? On the other way around, how does the future city want the mobility to become? Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Where's Ikegami-san?
Thank you for the great panel. I'm Ikegami. I'm a consultant supporting Japanese media and entertainment industry. So in media and entertainment industry, community management has been one of the major topics. And I think not only media and entertainment, but other industry like education, and of course, venture economy, community is becoming more and more important. And I think what we can expect to those offices is being a good hardware of community management. So could you give us some comment on community management point of view, how office or how a city can be a good hardware for the community? Thank you.
Very important question. Thank you. Sekiuchi-san, yes.
Waichi Sekiguchi, president of Research Institute and former Nikkei editorial writer. My question may goes to Mori-san. So I really enjoyed your comment. And then, so I wondered, to what extent people will come back to the office? You said that the 30%. Of course, it depends on how the companies will change their way of working. And also, who are going to take that vacant space after this issue is over? Whether it big firms or small firms, or who are going to take that?
Interesting comment. So, Hiro-san, do you want to go first?
First, I will answer to Sekiuchi-san's question. As I mentioned, the many tenant company will reduce the space, but they own some headquarter function in central Tokyo. So the space size is smaller, but the number of the company is increased. So the key is, and on the other hand, it means that the office market becomes more and more competitive. So it's not easy for landlord, but we have to add some attractiveness. And you, like your comment, answer, it's not hardware, but some software attractiveness. But I'm not sure at this moment what is the attractiveness, software attractiveness of the office. I don't not find out it, but still I'm looking for this big agenda. I want to find out something.
Well, maybe community management is one solution to that.
Yes, and as you mentioned, community is by human beings. So human beings, what does human being like to spend the time there?
Seiichi-san, do you want to talk about community?
Yeah, well, the community, I think it's the key, very much key to make the city better. Again, like I'm really following this circular economy. So for example, like a developer like Mori Building, well, now they're, what the Mori-san mentioned, like real estate company based, like so the renting the floors, and but the area management is actually the key to, or as a software to manage the community. So instead of like maybe like this is a time to change the domain, or maybe expand the domain as a developer, like a real estate developer, to the community-based real estate developer / IT. So they can manage, like for example, what I learned from the COVID-19 is that like there are so many like the marketing-based the business, but the ratio to win is like maybe 30%. But the big fault is like, for example, like, well, we lack of masks or we lack of things, but nobody, including the government, could not really manage like, oh, this company has a material, this company has a knowledge to actually fabricate or to make the things, and then they combine together. It didn't happen, but it can be happening in the city, like the based on the community. So that's my my opinion about the community.
Well, that's one of the recommendations we developed together and presented to the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, which has not been accepted yet. Yeah. Do you have any comment, John, please?
Going back to Mori-san's question of the hotel. I'm sorry, I'm fixing a hotel. I love going to hotels. Community comes from food and eating food together. And I think that there are so many people whose livelihood is built on making food and making people happy through serving them food, that if you think of the basis of user experience, it's always having user research. Many cooks who are creating food to deliver to someone else has no user research. And therefore the food quality is going down globally. And also those people's jobs are materially impacted. So I would recommend having amazing food as a key part of any amenity, because people can only make the good food 3 or 4 dishes at once, and then they get tired. So food creates community. That's my take.
Thank you. And actually, that's one of the perfect solutions for the last question we discussed. What is the magnet of a city? So can anybody give some hints about the mobility question? Maybe Toshiko-san?
Yes, I think that's one of the critical issues about cities. And because in New York, in America, because of COVID, everybody is scared of public transportation. And then it's not like in Tokyo, it only gotten clean, but no one can trust how they clean it. And there's absolutely no trust on people who manage subways in America. But in Japan, it's very different. You feel it's probably cleaner. So there's an increased ownership of car ownership, individual cars, and no one can trust Amtrak or even long distances. So everybody is traveling. It's more increase in travel by automobile. So that's actually is return of certain strange Eisenhower era of America. Everybody's in a car. So it's creating a very strange suburban trend. So that's one thing, but within the city, there are people who can't afford cars, but then bicycles, and as I mentioned before, idea of being able to walk, and then those local transportation becomes very, very important. And also because mobility is critical in this time, because everybody is locked down, isolated, everybody's getting everything delivered by Amazon's delivery, and then how they do it, they would just dump it on the sidewalk and people in the carts delivering, or bicycles delivering food to you. So there's amazing micro mobility which is happening in the city, which we didn't experience before. Enormous amount of bicyclists, enormous amount of carts that's people carrying. I think that's, in fact, that's more than number of automobiles that has increased to take care of it. So the solution is probably more of at a city level management of how goods move, because it's really getting to be a little dangerous right at the moment, with all sorts of traffic has now back and increased. And in a way, perhaps electric car might solve environmental problem, but it's very expensive. It's not affordable to everybody, and everybody's scared of Uber or shared car services. So it's the critical, that's mobility is probably one of the biggest challenges the city is facing now to make it equitable, affordable, and accessible right now.
Yeah, very important point. And regardless of whether or not COVID-19 affects our life, the evolution of mobility systems affect the shape of the city very significantly. If we have autonomous driving services with affordable prices, maybe some people may want to live outside of the big city because transporting is less cumbersome for them in that time. Hiro-san, do you have any discussion going on with that topic, the shape of the city and the transportation system?
Yeah, as Toshiko-san mentioned, Tokyo has a very, very effective public transportation system. So people gathering to Tokyo. But I'm happy.
Yeah, and we are seeing that the more and more people are getting back to subways nowadays. Any additional questions from you all? Yes, please.
Thank you for all the insights. My name is Alba, and I work in multimedia and production, so maybe it's a question for Taito-san. I would like to know which is your point of view in terms of future of big-scale events and how to bring them virtual without taking away that engagement and interaction, especially now we shifted fully 100% virtual. However, it's pretty much been behind the screen, and I would like to know in terms of user experience as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I can take another question, just one more. No? Yes, please.
My name is Takashi from GLOBIS. My question is, changing cities or redesigning city takes time because we have to do a democratic way. In case of Singapore government can say, okay, you go out, we do this. That can be happening in China or Singapore, but it's not impossible in US and Japan. What would be your strategy to speed up, to change cities or redesign cities? That's my question.
Very interesting question.
So answering the entertainment, like the big scale entertainment events. Well, as you mentioned, like a lot of entertainment events shifted to the virtual things, and well, it was okay for like 2-3 months, but the people, especially big fan, start saying like, well, we want to go back to the physical things. So my idea, like what we are planning is that like the one is like we're gonna have the events, not really like the concerts and things, but the cultural event can be happening in like deep countryside. Like for example, I've been doing the events right now in deep Nara, northern Nara, where like the Yoshino and Tenka, which is like really famous for like forests and all that. And so we can avoid the human interaction, and it's like they operate everything by their app, so the people can actually the physically gather, not really gather, but you know, the walk through like 8 hours to experience all the art. So instead of like having the museum can be happening outside, but it's the countryside. The big events can be the hybrid, but in my opinion is like the hybrid, like for example, like 30,000 people gathering events happen. Well, it used to have like once in the city and travel around. So it was a big business model, but if we do everything virtual, so it's just once, and then we sell all those, like, so we can't really make the business or like make the money as it was. So can be small physical events, but the more like maybe like 10 times more like openly we can actually have like in a different city. So that's my opinion.
Toshiko-san, please give us a very quick explanation in terms of how at least the US governments are influencing the transformation of the shape of the city.
Well, okay. So that's actually a very great question. And that's why when something crisis like that happens, we can do urban experimentation. For example, sidewalk cafe, a restaurant, that registration got approved in 1 week, because restaurants are suffering, people losing jobs. And then now they're actually coming up with a new registration allowing theaters, performance groups to use parking spaces, open empty lots, and even sidewalks for performance spaces, like what Saito-san said, so that the performers, they are like really love to perform. It doesn't matter 5 people, 10 people, but then like say 20 times. So that's actually happening in coupling with really encouraging performance and cultural events, and then also art institutions. So this is actually a great time of urban experiments. And because the Sidewalk Cafe has been so successful, they are probably going to make it a permanent policy to allow it, to make it less expensive to lease. So in a way, this is an opportunity for urbanists to really propose new things to cities, and because of economic incentives, they have no choice but to do it. And that's how we actually make changes.
Thank you. And we can say that the Japanese governments, both central and Tokyo metropolitan government, are trying to do similar things, but maybe slowly compared with some of the US governments. So let me wrap up the session. I can really summarize this discussion with so much breadth and depth at the same time, but the several points I thought are very important include, number one, the situation is impacting our life very significantly, but in a way, it is accelerating the already existing trends even before the COVID-19 situation. And number two, how to gather people is becoming so much more important to maintain or increase the attractiveness of the city. Otherwise, probably people don't come to the city, and probably it's going to have a significant impact to the economy as well as the culture. So the device could be culture and art, or quality of life, or maybe serendipity I discussed earlier. Number three, how to improve the quality of life, include maybe developing a walkable city, as well as a 24-hour city with diverse lifestyles. But at the same time, as Join pointed out upfront, addressing the inequality issue is becoming so much more important, because the COVID-19 situation with remote work and remote education is increasing the gap between the winners and the losers in the society. So let us give a big hand to all the panelists who joined from Tokyo, as well as Maine and the West Coast, and thank you very much. Thank you.
GLOBIS.